means the death of my forest. It's the law of evolution. The new race always destroys the old. The world is exploding with people. They need food and space. Riding in metal, moving on concrete. They will devour the jungle within 30 years. It's their needs that destroy the jungle. Take any man. It's his economic necessity that ultimately launches my expedition. First, his need for food draws the immigrant from Europe, then sends him to the interior for land.
Brasilia, built to develop the interior, was wasteland when Claudio first went to the jungle. And the frontier town ahead was once just Claudio's base camp. A road has opened up the unknown land Claudio was the first to cross, but into the unexplored jungle ahead, prospectors are already smashing their way in.
Someone found a diamond, and immediately 2,000 prospectors arrived. This is the pace of the onslaught. These are the bearers of civilization to the unknown Indian, like our Kriyanakori. They're not anthropologists, they're not trained or educated. These men are the ambassadors of our race. This is the face we show the Indian.
The face of the Indian is more gentle, even when she's become the miner's prostitute. They're permissive and innocent. Their tribe was as wild as the unknown Kriyanakori until Orlando and Claudio won their friendship 3 years ago. Now they've been bought for old clothes, and their husbands who did the selling try to tell Claudio how it happened.
We thought we could give them a few more years of peace alone in the jungle. But the prospectors got here first. And this is the pattern of the future. They will lust for the products of civilization and hate them at the same time. As I watch him, I watch my own responsibility. I lured them from isolation because our help is their only chance. But that chance leads through this and all the conflicts of civilization. I only have to stand back to see in his face all the others that have died. Indians have no resistance to our diseases. And though we succeeded in wiping out TB in this tribe, how can we speak of success when it demands this price? Only a few die, but death wounds the minds of the survivors, and their despair passes from generation to generation. Their legends rise from this land. Their spirits live under this river. So to move them away from the prospectors is to risk their beliefs and the society built upon those beliefs.
To leave them means bullets, syphilis and extinction within 5 years. So Claudio is moving the tribe down the chain deeper into the jungle to his Indian reserve. There they will merge gradually into our modern life through a period of inevitable shock and unhappiness. Alternatives do not exist. Within 30 years, factories will stand on this river.
I've launched a dozen tribes on this journey. Soon the unknown Krianakrori will have to follow. But he can never banish the memory of 25 years ago, when Orlando and I first came to the jungle, and the Indian appeared to us like a spirit from the forest. In the Indian, it was the forest that danced, and the wilderness that seemed free. As if they were the owners of paradise, they welcomed us to man's oasis in the jungle. Music rises from the secret places of a people's soul. The dances were the cathedral and throne room of Indian life. The dances joined each man in harmony with his universe. They expressed his joy in the forests and rivers. They were his links with the spirits and the dead. Indian life, we realized, was not barbaric, but in its setting very civilized. A cultured harmony between man and his environment. The dancing stopped when flu, brought by our expedition, swept through the villages. We radioed for medicine to the government department that had sent us. "How can we look after Indians," was their reply, "when there's not enough medicine for the slums of Rio?" And thus we learnt, as young men, that though some Indians may be murdered, most die from neglect. So we bought medicine from our salaries and organized our men into medical teams. But at the end there were 9 graves, including the chief. And Indians also believe that most disease comes from magic. The witch doctor was accused of causing the epidemic, and completely passive in his fatalism, he lay for several days in his hammock. He just waited until they came for him in a night of full moon. They clubbed him to death in the village square, close to the eagle's cage. Then they burnt the chief's house, and those most bitter flames of our life taught us how dangerous were the effects of civilization, and that if we were civilized, our duty was to stay and help.
20 years later, that help has rescued the tribe from the prospectors. They arrive deep in the jungle at the Xingu Reserve. It's the brothers' policy that isolated tribes are taught to live with other Indians before they live with civilization. One day the unknown Krianakrori tribe will arrive like this. In 1961, the tribes in the reserve massacred half the arriving tribe. Some years before, the arriving tribe had stolen a girl from the reserve Indians who now want her back. She's crying, but she's assured by the brothers that she won't be forced to leave the husband who captured her. It's the first of an endless series of problems, and the new tribe are right to feel apprehensive. Almost anywhere else, their chances would be extinction rather than survival. In the whole of Brazil, the Xingu Reserve is the only place where a large group of tribes is not dying, but is actually on the increase. Teams of doctors move from village to village. There's a plane for emergencies, also a hospital. Indians run the reserve and its machines, but nothing is forced on them. They're only taught what they want and when they ask for it.
Fábio brincava na calçada e logo se...
They ask for our tools and techniques, but the old culture remains the unchallenged core of their society. What the brothers offer is a period of adjustment before the full shock of the modern world. And so, invading prospectors are thrown out.
Mas eles estão ainda em estado de briga. E a sorte dos senhores também foi entrar à direita aqui no Rio Culuene. Porque se o senhor continua em linha reta, ia cair na mão dos Juruna. Também não iam perdoar.
But for the Indian, there is no punishment, no police, and no law beyond persuasion.
Esse colar é muito feio. Olha a cara do colar.
Que vai lá buscar doença para vir morrer criança aqui.
Isso.
Vai lá buscar doença e depois começa a morrer criança, que agora não tem criança a morrer.
He's heard unknown Indians in the jungle. They're offering to capture them, but Claudio says he must do it. It's the start and foundation of his whole policy.
Com relação cachimbo, estamos na escuta.
Alô, Orlando, entendi tudo. Quanto ao cachimbo, aquilo que eu falei com você.
The news is that unknown Indians have attacked the jungle base of Kashimbu, and the Air Force is flying in reinforcements. The crisis began when an approaching plane wireless that the Kashimbu runway was blocked. The base's operator rushed out, saw an Indian, and fired a shot. In the scrub, 60 of the unknown Krianakrori tribe dropped their bows and fled. Later, a plane rushing in reinforcements crashed, killing 20 men. More lives to add to the English explorer whose body some years before was recovered from a Krianakrori ambush.
These are the age-old enemies of the Kree-Nakrori. They're also the only people on Earth who know anything about them. The Zuka Hamai tribe were the greatest fighters of this century. They killed scores of white men, and we took years to contact them. But though they're enemies of the Kree-Nakrori, we think they're similar in culture, and so can teach us something about them. Inside the group, they're loving, generous, and affectionate. But outside is the jungle, and there everything hunts and is hunted. To live, the Indian must kill, and he kills daily without compassion. He watches death with flat, unresponsive eyes. And until you understand the killing, you cannot understand the Indian. Killing is the economy of the jungle. It's the rule of existence, an instinctive, automatic reflex. This is the barrier we must cross, the constant, unthought rain of clubs. The brutal hunter is a gentle father. And all his social loyalties and duties are an extension of family love. They are as loving as we are, and probably more gentle. There is no difference between us, except that their love extends no further than the tribe. The ancestors of these Indians extended family love to include all the relatives that form a tribe. In our case, the Romans extended citizenship from a city to a whole empire, and Christ developed this into the brotherhood of men. So how can these Indians understand that all men have rights when they've never lived in an empire, never known anyone outside these confined limits? Beyond is the jungle, where only the killer has the right not to be killed. The war dance incites hate against the Kree-Nakrori. Brutal and murderous, but there's something universal in human nature which responds to the strange idea that it's wrong to kill. They still kill, but they understand why I don't. And so they will help me now. I don't know much of their language, but I gather that a distant section of their tribe has just killed some Kree-Nakrori. This is our first clue. The Kree-Nakrori village is in the heart of the jungle, over to the west. We are flying across the largest unknown jungle of Brazil, the home of the Kree-Nakrori. We hope to give them a few more years of peace, but a road will be through soon, and already there's an airstrip by the section of the Zukahamai tribe, which recently attacked the Kree-Nakrori.
They're tense and nervous, worried that Claudio's been told about their attack on the Kree-Nakrori. So first, Claudio talks to an old friend, a white man who was captured as a boy and brought up as an Indian. In the jungle wars, he led raids on the whites, and he went on the last raid against the Kree-Nakrori. Indians are always confused in their stories of war, so Claudio often asks them to reenact their battles and attacks. He says that a Kree-Nakrori village is like one of his tribe's jungle camps, and that if the rest can be persuaded, the attack should be acted there. It was guns against bows, a massacre with 20 killed and 4 children captured.
These captured items are a symbol for me of the jungle war. The necklace contains beads I gave Azuka Hamai. A Krina Crowley killed him and put the beads in his necklace. Now he's been killed, Azuka Hamai will wear it. I listen to accounts of meaningless slaughter. But if I cease listening, I realize that this is a world unaware that murder and cruelty can be wrong. Watch their treatment of the captured children. White men can be just as cruel, but they would never let me see. The child must go back. The fighting must stop. But the first problem is to find the village.
Even with directions from the Zuka Mai, the search goes on for days. The village of the massacre will be abandoned, but they hope it will lead to other villages nearby.
Plantação ali em forma de cruz, né? As casas devem estar um pouco mais para cima. Deve estar mais para cima. As casas aí, então. Olha que coisa bonita, rapaz. Que maravilha isso.
For me, this is the true gold of the jungle. A fragment of mankind, buried since the beginning of time. What right have we to trouble these tiny dots below? They don't want us. But the world has found them, and we already know the price of that discovery.
From that fate, these unknown dots must be saved. Their village is only a small one, but Claudio hopes to use it to approach the other villages, which he believes are somewhere in the surrounding jungle. First, he'll get Indians from the Shingu Reserve, then travel up the Manitsawa River, cut a trail to the next river, and build an airstrip and canoes. Finally, he will enter the village. They come from a dozen tribes. Once they too were unknown Indians watching Claudio from the trees. Now they wear clothes to distinguish them from a war party and will help find the Kriana Quarry.
I have been doing this since 1945. First, you cut a compass trace ahead of the main party, and then you move along it, slowly. It's like finding a way through fog. We average about a mile a day. It will take 2 months to reach the other river. Behind, a larger party widens the trail for the supplies to follow. And for protection, we work in armed groups. In jungle, you never see more than a few yards, so our safety from attack depends on the Indian sense of hearing. He's a born instinctive hunter, and every few minutes he listens to the world of animal sound. Every 2 or 3 days, we move our supplies to a new camp closer to the cutting head. And so we advance deeper into the jungle and closer to the area which must be hunted by the uncontacted. They can see smoke about 8 miles away.
Perto ou longe?
In rainforest, there's no fire without a man. It's vital to know exactly when the uncontacted know about us. Vultures have picked the monkey's skull clean. The Indians say it was shot by an arrow.
Aquele da areia? Não tem mais que uns 2 dias.
Não, tem menos. Choveu ontem.
Choveu ontem, né?
Ontem choveu, é de ontem ou de hoje.
Então eles estão aí, né? Amanhã ou depois.
Indians mark a route by breaking twigs, and it looks as if this line of twigs leads towards the uncontacted village.
Olha aí, olha aí. Esse mais importante para mim. Olha aí.
We know they're here. You become tense and nervous. But how close and where? It's a feeling that can drive you mad. It drove 2 men mad on my previous expeditions. You know it's stupid, but you're tempted to search the jungle. This is a world of camouflage, and you're watched by 1,000 eyes. Soon you have a headache from focusing and refocusing your eyes. Really search for the watchers, and you go mad. In the jungle, you must walk within your own mind. I can't see the Indian who waits to kill me, but his image lives in my head. I have known that jungle Indians won't attack an armed and waiting party ever since my first expedition 25 years ago, when Orlando and I entered the unknown plateaus of the Roncador. The Chavanti Indians were famous for killing intruders, and we built palisades to crouch behind, and every man was armed. They screamed at us from the trees. Arrows dropped out of the sky. One man was nearly killed by a stone, and once they tried to fire the camp. On the savannah, I climbed a termite hill just in time to see a war party. But never, in 5 months, did they risk a frontal attack against armed and waiting men. And so we go deeper. And so the Kree Crori watch and let us know they're watching. The mark of one of the clubs. This begins a long and curious process of communication. I hang up presents which they refuse, but their minds are troubled. Can a present giver be an enemy? Doubt unhinges the reflex to kill. Of course, our Indians could discover their camp and I could walk in with presents. But I learnt that mistake 12 years ago when we found a camp of the unknown Chicao tribe. Indians are usually more alert, but that day, in the summer of 1956, I almost walked up to the first hammock. That's the last I saw of them for 8 years. Indians must find presents alone and without pressure. They are the opium of civilization and will create needs in the taker that can only be satisfied by the giver. And so we let them watch and ponder what they see as we crawl along our narrow tunnel. Like ants, we pursue a distant goal. Our eyes are blind to the watching universe around. Nobody who has not lived in forest can understand our relief at reaching the other river. It's not just the expedition's next means of transport, it's our first view. To clear an airstrip like this with stone axes would take the Kree Crori 20 times as long. So such a climbing pillar of smoke will be seen by them as the banner of a new power, the coming of a kingdom that must destroy and replace their own.
The plane flies in men and supplies, and Orlando arrives to supervise the final approach. From the air, presents are dropped on the Kree Crori village, only 30 miles away. The presents are tied to balloons. It makes them less lethal to the Indians below. This starts the final raising of the pressure that must soon force a decision. As the village is entered, the men below will either have to run, fight, or make friends. But their reply now is, as always, indecisive. Two enigmatic pillars of smoke.
Because of the Kreenakrori, no canoe, white or Indian, has ever moved on this river before. Of course, they could kill a few of us now while we're helpless, but I'm certain they won't. Our job is not to win fights, but to forestall them. So we have 40 men armed with guns, and that's like an armored division in the jungle.
Todo mundo sentiu nada ainda. Esse é mais velhinho, né? Você vê que eles moram perto, eles vêm sempre aqui, né? Não prova. Ah, o boneco aí quem é? Recente mesmo, não é de agora.
It's an old platform for shooting fish. And so the invader is creeping into the backyard, and the householder begins to tremble with fear and doubt. Almost anything could drive him to flight or violence. So he moves slowly and very calmly.
Puxa vida, rapaz, olha o tamanho do pé desse homem aqui. Depois vou mandar um andar aqui pra ver como é que fica o rato. Primeiro deixa eu filmar. Parece que é só dois, né? Dois, né? Apaga o fogo aí, menino. Apaga o fogo. Fique quieto aí, fique quieto.
It's just routine. Indians seldom attack at night. But if they're watching, it's good to show that we're watching too.
Daqui lá uma hora, né? Uma hora ali.
4 quilômetros, não, de 4 quilômetros de avião, né?
De avião,
Bom, depois da mata, né?
uns 6 quilômetros.
Tem umas panelas de frente. Eu vi. Vem cá, vamos chegar. Vê se tem rastro de hoje por aí. Ó. Vamos ver se tem rastro de hoje por aí. Você que tá descalço não anda por aí agora.
Aí tá mudando.
Saiu correndo agora.
Quando ele corre.
Eu já vi o grito então. Vamos gritar. Não, grita Caiabi. Não, Chicão, não. Chicão. Chucaramãe. Olha aqui. Ele comeu banana agora, foi correr. Olha.
Não é muito longe.
Cadê vai? Ah, não, você escolheu foi tudo. Ia com os caras. Tiraram. Vai levar tudo, né? Vocês levaram tudo.
Por nada.
E os colares aqui, ó.
Colar, panela, tudo.
Olha aqui, ó. Dia de noite. Não há dúvida nenhuma que eles não gostam de espelho. Olha aqui, ó. Olha.
Quebraram todo ele.
Quebraram os espelhos. Agora, que beleza. Olha aqui.
Esse daí, esse.
Olha
Os aviões não levaram também.
Esse daí.
Olha que peça de
Pereceram as bordunas, né?
Olha aqui, rapaz. Cortaram com o dente.
É muita gente aí?
This is the first break, the first sign or hint of friendship.
Olha aqui, mas
We must take the clubs as an invitation and follow the trail that was used last night.
Aí foi eu.
It begins to look as if the Crean Crory are the sort of Indians who don't have a permanent village. They build rough shelters and move every few days from hunting ground to fishing ground, from plantation to plantation. So we play a game of hide and seek. In which of a dozen places like this did they eat and sleep last night?
Mas já cipó.
Cipó.
We found it. This is the one. That baskets for carrying food. So they were here last night. It looks as if they're just ahead of us.
Aí tem formiga demais, rapaz.
Obviously, we interrupted as they were packing to move. These baskets change our whole strategy. An Indian has few possessions. If he leaves them, he's really frightened. And if he's that frightened, any more pressure will drive him to the other end of the jungle. From now on, we can only wait and attract the Indian to us. What fear bites so deep that it justifies the loss of a stone axe that takes months to grind? Is it the old fear of the arrow against the bullet? Or perhaps it's a deeper terror passed down through the cone graves of their ancestors. There's a tribe that was contacted 4 years before Orlando and I reached them. 80% had died of flu, and the survivors were paralyzed with fear, gazing like rabbits at a phantom beyond their understanding. From this sort of fear, some of the tribes in Brazil's history have fled, never to be seen again. Probably the Krina Krori never had an epidemic, but they were harassed by diving planes close to Kashimbo. And it's easier to cure the sick or wounded than the fear that's fled from an unnamed terror and grown and matured in the dark isolation of the jungle. How will that fear be overcome? Will hunger eventually drive them to these plantations of potato and maize? Or is their terror greater than hunger? Steel is the temptation beyond resistance. It's a miracle in the Stone Age, an industrial revolution for the jungle.
An airstrip is built and Orlando flies out. During the next phase, he will be looking after the Xingu Reserve. The expedition is divided into groups that work and that protect the camp. The Krina Krori must feel they can watch every detail, but that the expedition is too strong and too alert to be attacked.
In jungle, you search with the ears, not with the eyes. Though nervousness comes from what you hear, not what you see. At last. After 6 weeks, they've had the courage. But what reason can there be, even in a primitive mind, to throw away the pots when you take the axes?
Amando, mais poucos, já não digo dias, talvez meses. Minha cara tá aí, amigo nosso. Não pode ser. Mas que beleza, levaram 12 machados, né? E 15 facões. Muito isolado, muito medroso, tudo que é fora.
From now on, the presents should be taken and replaced every few weeks. But exchanges like this have been known to last for months or even years.
It will go on for 5 months. But unlike the Krina Krori, rain is predictable. It has the known limit of April next year. If nothing else, it gives time to think. What is the problem of these Cree-Cree who've killed everyone they've seen for hundreds of years? Other Indians at least capture the children. The Cree-Cree kill everybody. They have therefore not only never met strangers, they've no experience that such meetings are possible. What it means is that an essential human idea is missing from their minds, just as many other things are missing from their society. Unlike the Xingu Indians, the Cree-Cree have never learned to make a pot, yet it's essential to most cooking. They can't make the mandioca bread, which is the staple of most Indian diets. And though they must have seen canoes, they don't know how to build them. They've never travelled on the great rivers and open plains that are the natural meeting place of Indians, and above all, they've never known the cultured life of one tribe in ceremonial contact with another. And so they crouch in the jungle until we come. They want to meet us, but the idea of meeting us is against all their history. Thus the Cree-Cree are now struggling with an idea as revolutionary as nuclear physics. In some camp like this, they're torn by confusion. And when the climax comes, it will smash the pillars of this society. When eventually they walk from the trees, they will already be new men.
After 3 months of rain, the village of the Presence is almost overgrown, and the hopes of a quick meeting with the Cree-Cree almost equally stifled. The last batch of presents is still untouched. The maize, long ripe, is still uneaten, and Claudio, worried by the delay, is growing nervous as he faces the possibility of a long siege.
As long as I am here, I am calling to them. In the emptiness of the jungle, my human nature is a magnet to theirs. In this way, human groups have always been drawn to other groups, till after thousands of years, all mankind lives in a world civilization. Only those with an extreme fear remain outside, and this fear thrives in the loneliness of the jungle. If people say every month shows its strain in me, then how much more the Cree-Cree, who've been alone for hundreds of years. I must therefore remain patient and continue calling to a people who somewhere in the flooded, endless jungle are yearning for me. Nothing separates us but this meaningless screen of trees. But then, for 10,000 years, did anything more divide the rest of mankind?